Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 238 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we're going to finish up with the design for our Tier 3 ore mixture setup. Enjoy. I think we're just going to need to wait on some of this stuff, but we do have an idea on some numbers. So we need 35 of those, and we need 4 of the heat sources, and 9 of the heat exchangers. And because we're going to have 9 heat exchangers, we might as well grab 1 extra steam engine here, just to make them nice and even. Okay, we'll come up here. We've already got our 50. Wow, they compact quite nicely, so we'll grab our 9. And this whole thing's going to create 94 megawatts when it's going. And is that going to be energy positive? Yep, that's kind of a bit of a flaw with Angels, is that you create more energy than you consume when you're electrolyzing hydrogen. So it doesn't really make much sense. So if you want infinite energy with this set of mods, just electrolyze hydrogen like perpetually, and you'll always have power. Just the only question is how many electrolyzers do you need to make it happen? But let's see here, we've got something going on here, but we could probably just kind of rebuild most of this. Although we probably want to keep the logic though. So we want to copy that over. I'll just build the setup here and then we can copy it over there. So we have our 4 heat sources, and I guess I should grab some heat pipes as well. Although we're probably not making very many of them, so might want to just do a ghost. And they'll make their way down here eventually. Let's actually build these off to the side here. And then we're going to have a big old line. So it's about 1 to 4, and in fact it's exactly 1 to 4 of heat exchangers to steam engines. So we can line it up and then do our 4 and then figure out where the power poles go. See, the substation doesn't quite reach, but these power poles do. So it'd be something like this, and then it looks like it can reach 2 tiles over on each side. No, not quite. Guess because it's down, it goes down a little better, so our repeating setup looks something like this. So if we put a second one here, we get this. And then we're going to need 1 more. It does look like the power lines don't quite reach though. So knowing that, let's design it so they reach. So the tile is this. And is that 10? Yep, so we don't need 1 of these, but we probably do need the power poles there. I believe all these heat pipes will connect between all of these here. So what is the very middle of this? Well, it's this one right here, so something like this. And then we just need to wait for these heat pipes to eventually get made. But it would be something like that, so not too big. Let's see. If it was connected via pipes to the rest of the factory, it looks like we've got a bit of a pipe bus going on right here. There's not much space. So that's going to kind of suck, but we do have hydrogen here, and is it being sent anywhere? It is. And there's its slot, so hopefully it hasn't been taken by a different chemical. And we can just keep going all the way down to where we need to go. I would like to attempt to electrolyze the base's saline water, but because the throughput of all of these machines is so high, it's probably not practical to squeeze it in. But if we were to squeeze it in, how would it work? It would be something like this, with extra space. Well, if each one of these machines individually had a top-up valve, it would probably work, because each one only does 160. So that would be 10 top-up valves. The valves are a lot smaller than having a bunch of pumps, and also the associated logic, which would be kind of annoying to wire up. So basically this, and then the pipe in the middle would be the supply pipe, but we'd probably want to just space this out a little bit to make it look symmetrical here. And because we're doing it in this way, we can just kind of do this. And then this would be the supply pipe from the base, and we would pressurize it to get as much in there as we could. And if it couldn't fill up to 80%, these top-up valves would do the rest of the work. Okay, we've got this rebuilt. For now, keeping the belts going down. And we'll worry about these pipes later, but basically it would just have a storage tank off to the side here, wherever the base's saline water would come in. And it looks like doing this, things didn't quite reach anymore. So there we go. That's a slight improvement there. Guess it's time to make sure all the modules are in here. Looks like it's just speed modules. Good thing Hellmod remembers, because I certainly don't. And then we need our power setup. Let's put it roughly in the middle. Doesn't have to be super close, but let's put it in between these two. Okay. Clear up the inventory a little bit. The bots will get here eventually with the resources, but we're going to need to store the hydrogen. And how did we do it here? Did we have like one-way valves or something? Nope, just looks like they're hooked up to a hydrogen tank. I guess that makes sense. Where it, that's interesting. That actually makes a lot of sense, where it has two setups. One to burn the hydrogen, if possible, but then if it overloads, to dump it. So we should probably try to do something similar here. So we can maybe put this there. And it looks like all of these are connected, so the one pipe will do. The flow rate is fairly high. I think I did put pumps in there. So in that case, let's pick this up, put it in here instead. I wonder what the exact numbers were for this. But we'll just do hydrogen is over 40,000. And can turn on. I'm not sure how the rest of it was set up. Well, let's see what the power is set. So the power is set to 40. So in that sense, the pump being on a network doesn't even matter, because it actually being consumed is a function of this. Although I kind of want to go down there just to make sure I'm doing it in the same way, because I figure it's been working pretty well up until this point, so I would rather continue it working pretty well. I've noticed a lot of seemingly empty drones are flying around. Like, it's a lot of drones, and what are they doing? Well, I guess it picked it up, but didn't the drones used to have an icon on them showing you what they were picking up? Because that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Like, and are they actually doing anything? Because it's 3.7k of fluid in here. Well, he didn't pick up that one. So I feel like there's a lot more drone activity than there used to be. Like, in every one of these is like a liquid drone. There's no solid items drones anywhere, which concerns me. But they have different colors, like they pick stuff up. Like, yeah, didn't they not have labels before? Like, there's no ethane gas in here, but the drone keeps going to pick it up. But is it up here where it would be stored? It is. And there's 20k of hydrogen, which it's actually maxed out. Well, this is the closest place for it to deliver hydrogen. That's interesting. I wonder if I just never did anything with that hydrogen. I don't know. Is there a setting for transport drones that got changed? Alright. At some point I have to stop just staring at things and have to trust that the drones know what they're doing again. And we'll take it from here. So man, it's been so long. What was I even doing before getting into this, trying to figure out what was going on? I don't even remember. It's been too long. Shorter for you, probably. For me, it feels like it's been hours, and I think it actually has been hours, but... Let's see how the build is going. I'm sure that will help remind me what we were doing. So I definitely remember the power setup. Oh, I think we were going down there to figure out what the settings were for the pumps. Of course, it means flying down there again. And I think on the way I was just like, huh, why are there so many drones doing nothing? Okay, so it needs to be at least 30 to pump it into the burners and 45 to be sent to venting. Kind of just want to pick this up right here so I can just copy it down and get the settings. So I'll just plop it over here. So to go into the burners, it needs to be at least 30. So it would be that one. And then 45 to dump it, which we would want to do, but it's always nice to have that option. And exactly how many stacks would we need for 900 hydrogen gas? Let's just create a new line real quick. Hydrogen void. 900. So we need 4.5. And they do get module slots, believe it or not, which is interesting for a flare stack, but well, with 2 speed modules, we only need 2 of them. So there we go. That's mostly set up. It's just a question of getting all of the water in here for both of these, but we could worry about getting those pipes in there. So now we just need to hook up the power lines, and we got to make sure that they don't connect in the improper way, because this needs to be hooked up to the base at large with this logic. And I guess we can just kind of plop it right here and try not to get the wires to touch. So this needs to be connected, but I think we used a red wire there, so let's use a green one to match what we're using. And then will this reach? I guess it's kind of set to the wrong side. Hey, it does. Okay. Well, that should do it for the sodium hydroxide. The other thing we needed in major amounts was the thermal water, but that'll come by on a pipe. So too will the sulfuric acid. And that's the same for both ferrous and cupric. So now we just need to handle the wastewater, which we can do here. Just grab the wastewater. Don't need to put it into a void anymore. 300. And it looks like just one water treatment plant will work. It will create some outputs, but that's okay because we can just kind of attach it to the line on the end of here. And I'm not sure what we would do with the fresh water. I would like to save it if possible, but it's probably not practical. But I guess we can kind of hook it up to this one setup right here. Kind of curious why the water level is kind of high there. So if it's under 8, it turns on. Could just be that's the how it kind of works, but these other ones are fairly low, but then this one's high, so as long as they're not maxed out, I guess it's working fine. It could just be the buffers doing their thing. Well, now that we have an idea of the components that go into this, we can finally build the setup to handle the ferrous dust and then connect them all together. And we got to try to plan it out here, so some of these resources are going to get bypassed and the other ones are going to go straight through. Of the ones that do, we're going to need to have 2 plants to make the sludge, but we need to make sure that we have enough room for all the inserters, because as you can see here, pipes are going to take up a huge amount of this space. So they're going to take up like this much on this side. Luckily it's turning it into liquid though, which makes it a little easier, but because we only have 2 machines, I'm wondering if we can just do something like this. Then the output can be in the middle. Then we can have our many belts of things. And we're essentially going to need 2 red belts here, or at least a red belt and a yellow belt. So since the outputs are on the outside here, let's do them on the inside on this one. We need to get 15 across, but we also need to get 5 across, so we probably need a stack inserter for each color. And to keep them from getting confused, we might want to specify a color for all of these. Let's kind of put this here. And because with 15, I'm kind of worried about 2 inserters doing 15 items, so let's put some right here. And we want them all to be filters. Well, this is going to be a pretty small setup, so I don't think we need to worry too much about having them all be set to a combinator. Especially because we don't need to do nears and fars. But one of these needs to be for the powder. And I guess we should get some power poles in here to stop the flashing. And then this other one can just be one of these. Doesn't really matter. Let's just go with sapphirite chunks there. And then the other side can be a yellow belt, and it will come probably from above. And it needs to be 5, so let's do a stack inserter. Although it's across 2 different machines, so the red ones should probably work. Technically a yellow would do the trick, but I think it would be pretty close. But the yellow might work. So let's switch these over. And they need to be filters. This one can be the Jivolite. And this one will be the Rubite. Just to make sure they're not being confused. And then it has its output pipes. And we need to have its cousin on the other side, but we have to flip them and fix it. So I guess we'll just pick this up and not flip it. And then move these around. Switch it to Cooper. Then we can connect their pipes. Don't worry about them getting connected to the factory as a whole later. Just put them a little closer to each other. Then we'll put the speed modules in there. And then each side needs 10 flotation cells. And it's interesting doing this where the input is a liquid and then the output is the solid. And then on one side has to be the sodium hydroxide, which in this setup would come from the side here, and we probably can put 2 sets of machines next to each other. So if this is here, but I guess it doesn't really matter if it's up or down. Since this other one went down, let's make this go up. And then a yellow inserter on each side. Although it might be more compacted and less of a long straight line if we did them side by side. But when you look at the relative size of everything else, it actually kind of makes a lot of sense that it's in this shape, because it will kind of match the general shape of everything else. They all are kind of squares-ish, but then when they're placed, they end up being kind of rectangles. Because I think if we had 4 lines of these, it would be significantly wider than this setup here. Okay, and it looks like yellows will work for this. Just as long as they alternate near and far. And then that would continue going up. Okay. Let's try to copy over what we can. This would be the other side. Then we'll have to copy this without rotating it. And switch it over. And rotate them around. And finally, move the end over. Why is it that the logistics robots don't seem to be delivering us our ceramic pipes? I've kind of noticed that. It just seems very weird that we're always running out of the pipes, even though we are right here. But are we out of the logistics zone? Well, kind of, but not here, we're not. Oh, I guess that's what it was. We were just barely out of the zone. Okay, looks like it didn't copy over the inserters. We don't quite need 2 sets of power poles in here. So how much does all this look like? It would probably be about twice as long as this. And that does kind of match if it was out here and it like went down here or something like that. That seems fairly appropriate, but at the same time it could be made significantly shorter by doubling these up. So we'll try to do that. So let's pick up 5 things to copy. Put them there. But in this situation, the inserters don't need to be near and far. It's always a little nicer when they're inserting from both sides of the belt so they don't have to be near and fars. Now we have the task of getting all these hooked up, and it looks like it just so happened to kind of line up with our artificial wall here. Not that it really matters, but our two outputs would come up there. And these do need to be the correct colors, so let's make this the ferrous. Then we've got this little setup here that makes the fluids, and since they're coming from down here, it would be really nice if they could be made to line up. Although doing it from the outside one might be a little easier. So we'll pick it up. We need to leave a little bit of space for belts to get in there and whatnot, but something like this. No need to smash them in there. Let's see, we would have an input from the side, which would be all the sodium hydroxide. And then some inputs from the bus to get some of the color chunks there. And then the last one would kind of come down here and sort of get placed on half of this. Meanwhile, the belt would just kind of come through here. It might help to have this spaced back a little bit, because then this can be the underground, that could be regular, and that places on the side. So then on the left would be the sapphirite. Okay, we gotta hook up the pipes. Both of these sides would like to hook up. You can probably just kind of do it right there. And have this go down. It does need to go through this. But looks like the power works just fine like that. So you got the outputs hooked up. Then it's just the inputs, which we can worry about a little later. And the inputs will probably come from the side here. And we can probably just hook those up when the time comes. So the next stage was this one right here. So let's start unhooking things. We need to place it in here. Try to roughly line it up. This is probably more center. Give it some spaces. And place it down. So we have our output here, which was 45. 15 of which has to go up there, but we can kind of do this with a splitter if we give priority to going to get processed. And then the bypasses will come this way. We do need to get these pipes worked out. Probably easiest to do it from the bottom here. And then we have our mixture input, which is much more. That it needs to be 45 of this 75, so I think this is definitely a situation for sorting warehouse. So let's use this one. We could actually probably use one storehouse to do both sortings, where we send the associated mixtures to their correct side, and then we have one belt of each as a bypass going out. Then the input needs to be 3 belts of each, and that might look cleaner if this was a larger warehouse. So 6 inputs. Let's have some logic hooked up. Let's say if the mixtures are below 10,000, except set them for their individual types. And then we need to put this in there. Well, because of the position of all of this might look cleaner if we do mash them directly next to each other. So they're all going into the storehouse in a straight line. And then their inputs come from below. Okay, I think we're pretty close here. That there's the finalized setup. And it looks pretty decent as far as size. We still need to hook up some stuff to it, but we can deal with that when we get there. So I think we are good to start building it now. But that's going to have to wait until next episode. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.